with Partners in Ministry. I'm your host, Dan Smith, and today I'll be joined by Courtney Burton. Courtney is the Development Director for Fellowship Housing in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. Well, welcome, Courtney, and thank you so much for joining me today.
It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for having me.
To get things started, why don't you just give us a brief history of Fellowship Housing?
Absolutely. So Fellowship Housing was started in 1991 by three Chicagoland local couples from Willow Creek Community Church who simply saw a need in the community for single moms and wanted to address emergency housing. So they started initially with rent subsidy and quickly thereafter realized that there was a need for more comprehensive social services surrounding what single moms were dealing with to help them move from crisis to long-term stability. So they began with adding housing initially in Hoffman Estates and Schaumburg here in the 90s, and the services grew from there. Today, jumping just a little, jumping ahead, we know that the community need remains. From the Census Bureau, our data tells us that there are 11 million single parent households in the U.S., with 80% of those being single mom-led families. So to support them, we now offer 2 years of transitional housing, financial literacy services, and one-on-one mentoring and support. In 2018, we were serving 18 families at a time. We're now, and that was just in Hoffman and Schaumburg. And we are now, we have 55 housing units throughout 12 cities in the suburbs and serving Cook, DuPage, Kane, and McHenry counties with a goal to reach 80 families served by 2028.
Wow, that's amazing. It really sounds interesting that you've gone one step past the idea of services to actually creating a community where people can find healing and growth, not just classes.
Yeah.
As you look back on the past journey that God's taken you on, how has He prepared you to be the director of development for Fellowship Housing?
Yeah. How long do you have?
All the time in the world.
Amazing. So gosh, I mean, for me, it goes all the way back to being a kid. I am a pastor's kid. I grew up with my dad in youth ministry in Ellettsville, Indiana, if there are any Hoosiers listening. And, my family was on WIC when I was a kid. We were on food stamps. And so not that I remember it the same way as my parents do. I would say that's not something that really occurred to me until I was older. I never felt like we did without, but to have a family that had to live on a very tight budget, that if the church didn't get its funds, my dad didn't get his paycheck, and my grandparents were showing up with groceries on our doorstep, and our local farmers would come and till our yard so that we could plant our own garden and be self-sufficient some in that way. I feel like it started there as I reflect on my story, and just being in ministry and watching my parents in service to the community when they themselves and us as a family had our own needs. And so my heart for service began there in the church. But and now fast forward a bit, I've been in ministry and nonprofit work for over 23 years. That started in youth ministry for me, and then operations and development for a church in California. And so I'm a Midwest girl. We started out in junior high. We moved to the Chicagoland area with my husband and I moving for ministry work to California for 4 years when our kids were little, and then moved back to the Midwest to be by family. And it was in that transition back that a former coworker of mine from that first youth ministry role at Willow Creek said, "Hey, we've got this role open at Fellowship Housing for an event marketing manager. And I think you'd be great at it and would love to work with you again." So, I thought, I don't know that this is for me. I don't know that I particularly have a passion around this ministry, but I also have learned not to close doors until to let God do that. We'll walk through the doors as long as he's opening them. And so I was like, sure, we're trying to move back. I'm going to be looking for a job. Let's go for it. And as soon as I met with Pam and heard more about the mission and what she was trying to do, I thought I could really make a difference here. And stepped in, and my passion and compassion for our moms, and specifically around housing insecurity and how huge of an issue it is, just for us across the nation, but in particular, how single moms are disproportionately affected by it. It's so deeply rooted in my soul now that I want to help solve that problem. I feel like I jumped all around a little bit. I don't know if you have any other specific questions in there, but just deeply passionate now about the work that we get to do here at Fellowship Housing.
Yeah, that is just so cool to hear how God used this little thing here, then this little thing here, then this little thing here, and he puts it all together and he makes this wonderful ministry, Stu, that you never would have dreamed up on. Yeah. So, just as a point of interest, I'm a Wheaton College graduate, so I understand the whole Midwest thing. And it was like foreign missions going to California when we went out there for a year. So it was really kind of get back to home missions in the Midwest. So obviously you're serving single women with the housing. What other types of services are you providing?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, we focus on that 2 years of transitional housing, financial literacy training, and one-on-one mentoring and support. I'm so sorry. So did you want me could you repeat the question?
Yeah. What kinds of services are you providing other than housing? You mentioned a little bit about some financial things. What else?
So sorry. I had a different note up. Yes. So our mission is to empower single moms to build a new legacy. And we do that through those base items that I talked about of the transitional housing, financial literacy training, and then one-on-one mentoring and support. When they come into the program, then they move into that safe housing, and then having that subsidized living space gives them breathing room to really focus on the core work that they're doing with their family advocates. And they get to customize those goals with their family advocate. So understanding that every family is unique and different. We don't want to approach them just specifically and say, these are the exact goals you go after. No, a lot of it looks similar. We're focusing on raising their credit score. A lot of them are coming from abuse situations. And so they might have an abuser who's tanked their credit score. And that's part of why they can't rent on their own. So by increasing that credit score, we're helping to empower them to be on their own once again. Sure. We're helping them with educational advancement and career training and interview skills, updating their LinkedIn. We've got partners that help do that. Our family advocates will work with them as well. Helping them focus on paying off their debt. We've got a debt retirement program that if they're in good standing, meaning their budget's in order, they have a program fee. I can talk about that a little bit later, but they have a monthly program fee. If that's paid on time. So if they're in good standing, up to $500 a month is matched through our debt retirement program. So really quickly helping them to get out of that, to get to a place where they're not drowning in debt. Their income is higher with their skills advanced in their careers and new job opportunities, and then saving so that they've got a financial safety net when they leave the program as well. So those are some of the key things that we're working on that are just internal services we provide. And that's outside of what we do with some of our local partners.
Sure. Yeah. As you take a look at the lives that you've been around while you've been there, transformation obviously is the most impressive thing that happens. Help us see what you've seen in terms of, here's how this lady came in and this is what life was like when it started, some of the growth things that happened and how it looks now after they go graduated from your program. What does that look like?
Yeah. So one story specifically that comes to mind as a mom who graduated last year, and I've got permission to share her name and her story from her. But Tamara, she grew up in a house where her father was absent and her mother was bouncing around in abusive relationships. And so that's the example she grew up with. And so when Tamara was older, and at school, she met someone and fell in love, and they had a little girl together. She came home one day and he left, and then she ended up in an abusive relationship after that. And for the safety of her daughter, she fled and lived in her car with her infant. And she said and the resiliency and like the courage of our moms, the way that they will try to figure things out. She would say, she would call a friend and say, can I come shower at your house before I go to work? Because she didn't have anywhere to shower, but she was trying not to inconvenience friends by staying with them, with her baby. But she finally just opened her truck one day and looked in and saw all of their clothes and said, I need to ask for help. And that's when she looked online and found fellowship housing. And when she graduated here, I saved some of her. I wanted to tell you what she did. She was incredible. When she graduated, she had increased her credit score by 132 points, saved $6,000 and eliminated all her debt. And she's now renting on her own while she saves to buy a home in 2026. And one of her quotes from her graduation, she said, fellowship housing has prepared me and given me all the tools I need to thrive now and in the future. I learned successful others are not the ones that never struggle. They're the ones that never give up despite the struggle.
Wow. That is just amazing. Amazing. I noticed that you mentioned earlier that you don't just do everything yourself, but you've got some partners that are helping you. Give us an example of some of those partners, what they're doing for you, and how it's impacted your ability to serve these women.
Yeah. So we could not do all of these things on our own. It's vital that we've got these key ministry partners for these additional services for our mom. And I think they would say the same about us. Like all of us nonprofits in the community, we cannot do it alone. We need these other areas that are specialized. So some of those are the CARS ministry and Cars of Hope that provide either refurbished cars for moms that need them or at-cost car repairs. It helps to have the partnership so that they know the moms are vetted and we've got those connections to get them those quick support services. Food for Friends is another local group that does, they give grocery money to our moms and they will then assign them a volunteer shopper who helps them understand how to maximize their grocery budget. I don't know. 8 years ago when I started, the number we used to say was they have $1,000 and they would make it last over 3 months. I don't know that they can spread it that far anymore, but that's what they used to do.
It takes some creativity.
Yeah, that would take a little more creativity now, but I'm sure maybe they spread it over 2 months now. We've got Westridge Community Church that does grocery gift cards and Easter gift baskets and back to school supplies and winter coats. And then Keeping Families Covered is a new partner just in the last couple of years that our moms can do a monthly order for free diapers, wipes, formula, and feminine hygiene products. That we got local counselors, community college partners that help the moms with career training and additional education. We have career coaches that hold weekly office hours, and so many more. There's tons, like too many to list, but those are just some of the key ones that I wanted to highlight. So, yeah.
And now, as you look over the history of the organization, obviously there's been some challenges you had to face. What have been some of the biggest ones, and how has God brought you through?
Yeah. So, our biggest challenge right now is housing. and it's everywhere, but just finding affordable housing, even as an organization, let alone for our families, is our biggest challenge to growth and serving more families at the moment. So average cost for a 2-bedroom apartment in the area is about $2,000. And our moms, when they come in the program, they're for a 1-bedroom paying $650 a month for a program fee, or $800 for a 2-bedroom. And that's encompassing not only housing, but all the additional wraparound support services and mentoring and everything that they're receiving. So yeah, that's the biggest thing. And so finding local housing partners, apartment complexes we can work with that are keeping an affordable rate. And God, the way he's providing in that is he continues to bring along the right partners at the right time.
Sure.
Something Dad used to say is God's rarely early, but he's always on time.
Right. Exactly.
And so we just hold to that. We're like, okay, God, keep bringing us the right partners when we're ready for our next spot to expand to. And he's kept us on track for that growth where we're trying to get out, not just in that Hoffman Estates, Schaumburg area, which is pretty central if you're familiar with, and you being a Wheaton grad, with the Chicagoland area. But, trying to get up to Crystal Lake and down to Carroll Stream and out to Huntley and, more in towards the city, towards, Northbrook or Park Ridge. So getting those key partners and still keeping those local support networks for the moms as we go into those new areas is really key. But he seems to bring the right people along and move hearts at the right time always.
We have a tendency to think about these kind of ministries as being exclusively in major metropolitan areas, but it's amazing how many of those same things are being experienced right here in small town Iowa, where, moms and people are struggling. And one of the biggest things, they don't have a place to stay. So are all of your housing that you provide owned by somebody else and they're making a discounted price for you to rent them out, or do you actually own some of the homes themselves?
Yeah, we actually have 3 different models. So we've got we're up to 8 or 9 units that we own ourselves now. And then we have a lot of housing partners who do rent to us at a discount. And then the remainder are just out in the general rental market. Sure.
Well, if I'm listening or watching this broadcast and I'm thinking, you know what, I really would like to take that next step in figuring out how I might be able to get involved with what you're doing, well, what would be my first step?
Yeah, I think there are 2 things I would focus on. First, one easy entry point and a really amazing way to support families who are brand new to fellowship housing is to check out our Amazon or our Target wish list registries. So our moms are often moving in from a shelter, or like Tamara, living in their car, couch hopping and things like that. And our wish list includes items that are anywhere from $3 to $300. So there's all kinds of opportunity there. It's super convenient. So no matter where you're at, those items just get shipped directly to our office for us to give to those moms. Some of them are our generic needs, like things every mom needs, moving in, towels and cleaning supplies and things like that. But there are also some very specific items that families have requested that are on there as well to set up their home when they're first getting started. So that's one. And the second one would be to consider becoming a monthly giver, or we call them hope builders. Those stable, reliable, consistent givers create that stability for the organization and for the families that we serve. And so that's one key area that we're working to grow in right now. And if neither of those is right for you, sign up for our e-news, because when you do, you get a series of emails from me that in a really easily digestible way breaks down what it means to be part of the fellowship housing community and other ways to get involved.
Sure. Well, before we go ahead and close down our conversation, how can we pray for both you personally as well as fellowship housing going forward this week?
Yeah. First, pray for the moms who are who are in need, who need to get connected with fellowship housing and don't know about us, or for whatever reason might be hesitant to reach out, that those barriers would be removed, and that God would help them get connected to the support that they need. So that's most important. Second would be for that housing. We continue to find the right partners along the way. For me, gosh, I wasn't thinking of that, but just to continue to have conversations like this. I want to be able to continue to share about the ministry that we're doing, and to communicate well on behalf of our moms, because they're so courageous. Sure. And they're going through a lot. And that 2 years there's a lot going on in the 2 years that they're with us. So the more that I can spread the word and bring support back for them, the better.
That's great. Well, Courtney, thank you so much for taking the time to visit with me. It's been great to get to know both you and Fellowship Housing a little bit better. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Tam.
Hey, if you've got any questions or you'd like to learn more about Fellowship Housing, you can see their contact information here on the screen. You can also find it in the show notes for this episode on our website or in the YouTube description. If you'd like to support Fellowship Housing financially, you can also find links to do that both in the show notes as well as the YouTube description. And finally, please consider sending Courtney and Fellowship Housing an email of encouragement. Let them know that you're thinking about them and that you're praying for them this week. So on behalf of Fellowship Housing, Courtney Burton, and Partners in Ministry, I want to thank you for joining us today. And until next time, let's get out there and serve as Christ serves.